What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. The Ranger is one of the 4 classes in backpack battles, and in this video today I'm going to be sharing a build that you can put together that will delete enemies and most often will result in you reaching the end game and a high score point in your particular run with relative ease. It revolves around very few pieces and is relatively easy to set up, and that's one of the reasons why this is one of my favorite ways to run the Ranger. So starting us off in the early rounds, there are 3 items that you need to be focusing on and buying whenever they come up. Don't put yourself into a bad position where you can actually lose a round or where you start losing too many rounds. Even losing 1 or 2 rounds is fine because it gives you more time in the shop and more buying opportunities. But the point at the early game, but the point is whenever you see a walrus tusk, a piggy bank or a blueberry, you need to be picking up these 3. All 3 of these are super important for the late game, so you want to get as many of them as possible because they are going to give you some of the pieces that you need to make this work in the end. Now, as mentioned in the beginning, you need to be focusing on actually winning some rounds though. So obviously a good start would be something like a hammer and some daggers, or 2 wooden swords and a whetstone or something like that. In actual fact, the 2 wooden swords and 2 whetstones is probably the way to go, because that is going to let you transition into something like a steel goobert by just combining the steel sword that you get with 2 whetstones and a wooden sword into a goobert that's going to give you a steel goobert. And this is the best one for this particular setup as well, since this is going to give you the 4 activation points for giving you additional armor, but it also has 2 points to the top and the bottom of the goobert that actually enhance the strength of the weapons that are slotted into those places. So that also makes this kind of like really good in the mid-gamey kind of area. So now as we approach the mid game and we get our subclass, we want to be picking up the mega clover, since this is just going to help us reach a much higher damage ceiling later on in the game. Plus it's going to give us a constant supply of lucky clovers, which we can start systematically combining with our piggy banks, thereby making lucky piggies, which gives you basically both of these items effects stacked into one. And it's just going to really help us have a lot of money that we can spend every round when we go to the shop. And it's again just going to help from a damage aspect, as I mentioned, because we're going to be stacking some additional items that benefit from all of the stuff that you're getting from these clovers. Now you also want to be picking up hungry blades when you see them. I would say stop at maybe 4, but I mean on average you're probably going to see 3, 4, maybe 5 of them in one run, so absolutely pick up all of them. We're going to be changing these into MANATHIRST by also picking up mana orbs, and that is our main weapon of choice. So when you convert it into a MANATHIRST, its stamina cost actually goes down considerably, which is why we can have so many of these. So you can basically be running like 2 of these and a normal hungry blade, which gives you the life gain, and that's going to be your weapon setup essentially for this. Now, the reason why MANATHIRST works really well is what MANATHIRST does is it actually converts any mana that you create when you stack enough of it into a lifesteal mechanic. And since we've been picking up blueberries, that's going to be a resource that is readily available to us. At the same time, we also want to be getting 1 Shield of Valor, and we can put another mana orb onto that, which is going to be our defensive item on this build that gives us a moon shield, which just really again helps us to avoid a shitload of damage, again because we're stacking so much mana. And then last but definitely not least, we are going to be picking up a Jinn lamp for every one of our weapons. In fact, it's also okay to have more Jinn lamps than you have weapons, because you can slot them onto the same weapon multiple times. But this is where the burst damage of the build comes from. Now you are going to be getting some spikes, some block, and some you're going to be getting some spikes, you're going to be getting some luck, and you're going to get some mana from a Jinn lamp. And then once you have 7 of each of those available, meaning 7 armor, 7 luck, 7 spikes, and 7 mana, then it is going to empower the weapon that it's attached to with 27 additional damage. That's why at the beginning your damage might not be that great, but as soon as you hit that threshold of the amount of items that you, or let's rather say requirement of resources that this needs, which usually happens about 2, maybe 3 seconds into it, then you are going to be flying out the gates. Now, the other way that we can make sure that we have these resources readily available is you can stack things like Valpertinger in, because that's just going to give us more of these status effects, these buffs on our side. And you just want to be making sure that you're getting to that ramp up point. So as you can see in the background here, that's an example of a near end game version of this build, where you just have all of these resources essentially being available, and as soon as the round starts, the first the first tick that you have from the gin lamps that you have in your inventory is usually enough to just ramp the damage on your weapon so high that you essentially just one tap or two tap the other person before they can even respond. Now, one last thing that puts the damage icing on the cake here is if you find any acorn collars, obviously buy them as well, because you are going to be stacking so much luck because of all the lucky clovers that you have in your inventory and all the lucky piggies, that you are going to be getting a huge amount of additional critical hit chance from these. So you want to be sort of spreading these in between your weapons, and then this is just going to further on give you that insane burst potential as soon as your damage cycle basically kicks in. Now, as your bags are full, just systematically start replacing the lucky piggies as you get closer to the end of the game to make more space if you need it, or figure out what a good amount of blueberries and gin lamps are that give you enough of that resource to basically, proceed. What you can also do is you can eventually replace the walrus tusks, because if you have Volpatingers or something like that, they are actually producing enough of the resource. Last and certainly not least, the mega clover itself also, once you reach the luck threshold, actually dumps 40 stats onto you, and that is usually enough to actually give you 2 or 3 of these really big powerful swings as well. So all in all, you have a bunch of different things that are working together in the background here to give you those resources that your gin lamps need to empower your mana thirst, and then your mana thirst activate and drain life off the enemy while hitting them, and all in all, you just essentially slash your way to victory. And that's gonna be it for the video. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. You can expect a couple of more of these videos on some of the other classes, and some more ones on the Ranger, which is, like I said, one of my favorite classes in the game. Absolutely, in the comments, let me know if there's a specific class that you're looking for and you'd like me to suggest a build or something like that. This game has a ranked mode, and that's why builds sometimes matter, because especially when you start even just getting to gold, there are a shitload of people playing this game. So even when you start getting to gold, you start going up against some really spicy enemies. So it's generally a good idea to have a couple of builds in the back of your head, and as your character develops and you see what items are available to you, you can start fleshing this out and build yourself a superstar that you're able to get to the finish line and a decent score point. I also want to take this opportunity to give the Discord server a shout out. It is linked in the description of this video. There are like-minded gamers on it that play this as well as a bunch of other games. So if you're looking for buddies in games, that is the spot to do it. Also, I stream exclusively on Kick every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in the evening. So if you want to hang out with your boy and come kick it with some really cool people, we'd love to have you. I'm a variety streamer, so I play a whole host of different games. I'm playing this currently as well, so you might catch me playing this on stream. Other than that, it's just super important to me that you have a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Till next video, fucking cheers.